But another thing that y'all been pretty involved in is this Hellbender classification on the endangered species list. And we have the beautiful Hellbender mural here in downtown, just around the corner. What has the work been like for yourself and Mountain True as that has progressed? Because I know that's also a very collaborative effort between a lot of different stakeholders and interested parties.
Sure. So status of the Hellbender, that's an excellent question. So something like an Endangered Species Act listing, which is what we've been working on for years, is certainly a collaborative effort. So the United States Fish and Wildlife Service collects the data, makes a decision recommendation, but all kinds of grassroots groups and scientists have been working on the Hellbender issue for decades, right? So groups like Riverkeepers, kind of across their known range, but then groups like the Center for Biological Diversity, who is involved in this mural project. They have their Endangered Species Mural Project, and Dalton George, who's our mayor pro tem here in Boone, but also shout out to Dalton George, one of my favorites. But he also works with the Endangered Species Coalition, which is kind of a national group working on all the endangered species, right? So advocacy and political acumen and things like that. But also, we're very fortunate here in Boone. We're kind of a Hellbender hotspot, but we have a wonderful research university here, Appalachian State University, and Dr. Mike Gangloff and his team has been working on Hellbender monitoring for decades. Okay. So dam removal is kind of a core piece of our work at Mountain True, and with these projects, it's an opportunity for what we call biological monitoring, right? So we're removing the Wards and Shoals Mill Dam. We contracted with Dr. Mike Gangloff and his research cluster, who's been studying Hellbender distribution, both their habitat and numbers. I think he has decades of data. He's been a long time. He's also a mussel expert, but bringing in other groups where you have knowledge gaps to strengthen the project, I think is a wonderful practice. But they were Mike and his research cluster would come out, and we conduct these Hellbender surveys. Assessing their habitat. Hellbenders live and thrive in the kind of the rocky cobble of our clear, cold flowing streams, right? And dams are a significant impediment to Hellbender habitat, both by habitat fragmentation, right? The Hellbenders downstream of a dam can't connect up with the Hellbenders upstream, so that's a kind of a genetic integrity issue. But also, a dam will kind of slow down the water, warm it up, reduce the dissolved oxygen, contribute pollution, things like that. So one of the wonderful things about a dam removal project is it's an opportunity to expand the base of knowledge on what happens to a river after you remove a dam. In this case, we removed some Hellbender. We relocated some Hellbenders from kind of the Shoals Mill area of the Watauga, and we moved them downstream to the former site of the Wards Mill Dam removal. So it was kind of an experiment on how quickly does habitat recover, right? So when there's a dam, one of the natural functions of a river or stream is sediment transport, right? But a dam will block that sediment, will kind of pile up behind it and create a shallow, muddy, kind of degraded habitat for things like fish, Hellbenders, mussels, macroinvertebrates. But when you remove the dam, the sediment goes away and you'll expose that rocky cobble habitat. So we relocated the Hellbenders. There's kind of a pilot project to see how quickly do Hellbenders recover. So we're interested to track that over the years. But back to your original question on the Endangered Species Act. So we collected all this data, made comments. So there's a public comment period during an endangered species discussion, so the public can weigh in. And subject matter experts like research scientists and policy groups like Mountain True or the Endangered Species Coalition or the Center for Biological Diversity can, or the Amphibian and Reptile Conservancy, kind of these groups who are their deep experience and knowledge base can provide.
So has it been a situation where you've been seeing these populations locally have been decreasing or leveling off to such a degree that it really prompted this kind of action? Or?
I'd say this action that the endangered species protection. So we've seen an 80% decline in Hellbender populations across their range, and there's some variation locally. So what that means is I'd say the primary threat to hellbenders and their population is habitat loss, degradation. So that's things like I described their ideal habitat, and you can see it for yourself on the murals. That clean rocky cobble, but as through development or deforestation, it's silt and sediment runoff, right? But it's also water chemistry changes. So places where you see a robust, healthy population of hellbenders are things like forested lands, right? There's a direct correlation between canopy and forest cover to hellbender health and stream health, right? So somewhere like the Pisgah National Forest, hellbender hotspot, right? Healthy, clean water based on the amount of available tree cover. Watauga River, historically home to a lot of hellbenders, right? But then we're seeing fragmented populations. So you have a lot of hellbenders in the headwaters, but the further downstream you get, your hellbender numbers start decreasing as water quality degrades, right? So things like tree loss or eroded banks, siltation, sedimentation, things like that, human disturbances, road projects, runoff, things like that. So that's one of the reasons live staking is so core to the mission of Mountain Trees. Like the best thing you can do for a river is keep that riparian corridor healthy.
I'm sorry, keep the
riparian corridor, and then riparian is that area between the water's edge and the top of the stream. Kind of that forested buffer is the best thing you can do for that.
And that helps prevent sedimentation or even just other material from getting into the river. Yeah.
So many benefits. They'll shade the stream, keep the water cool, but that riparian buffer, that healthy vegetated corridor will filter stormwater runoff. But keep some sediment and silt from entering the stream. But it will also, as those roots grow together, they kind of stabilize the bank. Yeah. And
one thing I've talked to people who deal with the hellbender issue as well is that they say that hellbenders are one of those indicator species. That if you have a healthy stream, it helps keep a healthy population of hellbenders, and if you have a healthy population of hellbenders, you most likely have a healthy stream. So it seems like one of those things that really play into each other quite well.
Absolutely. Yeah. So the hellbender has captured the public imagination in recent years. So as you said, it is an indicator species, kind of a by monitoring the hellbender populations, you're also monitoring the health of the river, right? So they're kind of a apex predator in their stream, right? So they feed largely on crawfish, macroinvertebrates. Things like that, all things that also are indicators of good water quality. But if you see a decline in a hellbender population that's well studied, like here in the Watauga River Basin, there's a correlation to decline in water quality or decline in stream health. They're also endemic to the Southern Appalachians. Like I think it's very special that the Southern Appalachians are such a hub of biodiversity, right? Yeah. The amount of salamanders and native fish and kind of glamorous species like the hellbender that exist nowhere else. They're
kind of one of our mascots up here,
right? There used to be like a little distrust or myth about the hellbenders. They're secretive. They some largely nocturnal. They're kind of homebodies. They live under these large rocks. So it's a real treat to see one. But now we're like in a rise of popularity. We're seeing hellbender themed businesses like. Save the Hellbender, merch. We're seeing them on, we have a series Save the Hellbender where we got on hoodies and shirts and cups and stickers and things. But we've seen, businesses across the Appalachians named after the Hellbender, which is great. I think bringing them the attention and prominence that is.
There's even a local rugby club that opened not too long ago, and they're called Hellbender Rugby.
Right. There's Hellbender Rugby. There's a Hellbender Fitness. There's a Hellbender Bed and Breakfast. There's a Hellbender Band.
Yeah.
It's great.
That's interesting because you kind of think of places like out in Gatlinburg. You think of black bears as big, their mascot out here. But even a
lot of hellbenders in the Smokies too around Gatlinburg.
I think it's more like a BRC question. I know we have like the Amphibolite Mountains around here, and I know that's related to, I guess, the rock formations that make up the mountains. But you think of amphibians, and I know that the area we live in has like the highest biodiversity of salamanders and maybe amphibians in general than anywhere else in the world.
It's really special. Also native fish too, and then unique tree species. BRC would be a great group to talk to about this. They have a wonderful desert experience, but we've got the the hardwood Hardwood Cove Forest. We've got, this, kind of altitude, northern spruce forest, things like this. And then the river bottom habitats. So diversity of habitats contributes to that, that biodiversity that makes this area so special. And then, the abundance of clean, cold water is, it's certainly worth protecting.